Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
I wish there was a song about riding the bus, because I think a lot of people could meet people on the bus. They could sing. They could do a lot of things. So I'm certainly hoping that here I am with Chris Walton, who is the actual, he's the big guy there. And he is a big guy, too. But I guess we call you, are you the director, the CEO? What do we call you?
Well, actually, I'm the director of the county's Broward County, or the county's transportation department, Broward County Transit.
How long have you been doing that, Chris?
Gee, well, I've been director for about 10 years now. Actually, been with the county about 18 years, but 10 years in the director's position.
And what when you first joined, what did you think? What did you think about this?
Well, South Florida was it's changed a lot. It's grown up in the last 18, 20 years. It's become much more crowded, much more traffic. Our bus system has grown, not nearly enough, but I've always enjoyed living here in South Florida. I liked it when I came, and I like it now. Right,
and you have your family and everything now.
Family's here, and they love it. They love living here. So
yeah.
we're South Floridians now.
And now with the new train, you're going to be very important to this.
Well, trains. I mean, there's something that's a little bit in our future. You know, as you may or may not be aware, we're planning on a circulator in downtown Fort Lauderdale. That train is not going to happen. Because of the election in Fort Lauderdale. They decided they wanted to do something different.
Right.
However, this fall, on the gubernatorial ballot, there will be a penny sales tax for public transportation dedicated for transportation in Broward. And there's a plan that covers road improvements, street lights improvements, intersection improvements, as well as substantial public transportation improvements. In that plan, we've got about 30 miles of light rail, so we will finally be able to introduce light rail into Broward County.
Okay, and now we have Brightline, too.
We have Brightline. In fact, I just pointed out to my daughter as we were coming up, we had a chance to see the southbound train.
Oh, yeah. I was actually on the train. I didn't drive it yet, but as a press person, they gave me, a whole look at it, and it's so fancy and so beautiful. And now, they're hoping to go up to Orlando, but for now, the fact that you can either go on Tri-Rail and then your bus helps that, or now you have Brightline, I think you have really graduated a lot.
Yeah, we're trying to improve the traveling options for all of our passengers. And Brightline is a significant addition to the transportation mode here in Broward County. I have had the opportunity to ride it. I rode on one of the inaugural rides to Palm Beach County, and it is spectacular. The stations are beautiful. The trains are outstanding, and the service is great. So, yeah, it's a welcome addition to mobility options here in Broward County.
Yeah, because when you first started, was Tri-Rail even going?
Tri-Rail was going when I got here. But you have to remember, Tri-Rail was never intended to be a long-term solution. Tri-Rail was only supposed to be there until I-95 was completed. But people kind of, I guess, got used to the idea of having a train there. And they decided to keep Tri-Rail. And since then, there's been a lot of federal investment into helping Tri-Rail grow, double tracking, improving stations, buying new trains. So it initially wasn't supposed to be a long-term solution, but it is now clearly going to be part of our future here now.
No, absolutely. And the one thing I do see is such a mixed, pardon the expression, bag of people riding. You have the elder people, and then you have the kids, and everyone's using it. And I've actually asked people, have you been on a train? I think trains are fun.
So do I, and that's why I'm looking so forward to introducing what we call light rail. Brightline and Tri-Rail run on, they run on diesel power, which is called heavy rail. The light rail is more of an electrified train that runs either on overhead power or batteries, and that's what we're going to introduce. So it won't be the big, large cars that you see for Tri-Rail. They'll be a lot smaller, and they'll operate on street roads. Integrated with mixed traffic. In some cases, they'll operate in lanes of their own, but it actually fits more directly into the fabric of the county. It won't be set off to the side like these systems are. It actually integrated throughout the entire county on the existing road network.
You get on and you get off.
That's right.
And isn't it funny, because I'm old enough to remember if you went to all the big cities, they all had these. And then eventually they ripped everything out, and that was the roads for the cars. And now they're going back to what really worked for the people.
You know, it's an interesting point that you make, because I'm from Detroit. My daughter and I, we moved from Detroit along with my wife. And I know the history. Growing up in Detroit, when I was a kid, we had one of the most extensive rail networks in the United States. But then along came Ford and General Motors and decided that everybody should have a car. So they paved over the tracks, they pulled down all the electrical wires, and that was what we have seen take place across the nation. However, in the last 15, 20 years, we've seen more of a rebirth. As people move back into the urban cores, people are and they become more congested. We're finding a need to have higher capacity vehicles. The single occupancy vehicles, or the vehicles that maybe carry 2 or 3 people, are just congesting and just kind of crowding up the roads. So what we're seeing now, cities want the ability to move lots of people quickly, and trains are the answer.
And downtowns are the answer. Boy, it's going crazy, isn't it?
Downtown, the growth in downtown Fort Lauderdale, and actually a lot of the cities in Broward County is just spectacular. So as we know, people are going to continue to come to South Florida. It's going to continue to grow. We're going to need means and methods of moving people around in these congested environments, and buses and trains will provide that solution.
And you, of course, know the most popular mode of transportation in San Francisco downtown is the trolley.
Absolutely, absolutely. We were just in San Francisco about a year or so ago, and it is a fantastic town for transportation. When we talk about integrating cars and bicycles and trains, they're all on the same roads, and they do a fantastic job out there. And we can have that same thing here.
No, you can. It's just going to take politics. Unfortunately, gets in the way of a lot of these things. You get some people might like it, some people don't, and everybody has an opinion. But you don't want to be on I-95 at 5 o'clock. You just don't. Anywhere, whether it's Broward, because I do that, and I just have to allow another hour. And some people, I know people who live in Palm Beach County and drive to Miami, and that is so stupid. So hopefully they're taking the train or they're taking something. But that's...
Yeah, well, again, we talked about transportation options, and one of the options that's being discussed, but it's not funded right now, is a train on the East Coast. Right now, Tri-Rail operates on the CSX tracks, which actually you've got to take a car or a shuttle to get to, and then when you get off, you got to take a car or shuttle to get to where you're going. If they moved it over, or actually ran service on the FEC, which actually goes through the hearts of 28 cities along the coast, then you would eliminate the need for a lot of people who are driving to Miami, because you would have the train actually goes through the downtowns of 28 cities. So you could actually walk to the train station, ride to wherever you want to go, jump off, and be in the heart of those cities. So that's an idea that's being talked about in planning stages right now. So we're looking for funding to try to pull something like that together for the future.
This is great. Well, of course, I didn't know we were going to get into this. You're so smart, and I know that you know about all this. I was just going to ask you about, what's going on with your buses. But I love this, because a lot of people don't know about what you've just said today.
Well, I'm very happy to talk about what's going on with buses. We're introducing... we just introduced 60 brand new buses into our fleet. Now, 30 of them are the over-the-road Greyhound-style buses that actually run express service to Miami in the HOT lanes from Broward to downtown Miami and to the medical center.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. We run express service from the BB&T Center. We've got a number of parking ride lots in southern Broward that go 595, 2 routes on 595, and 4 routes on I-95 that go into downtown Miami during rush hour in the morning and then return in the afternoon. And very successful routes. We're also, and this is very interesting, I had discussions as I was coming in today, we'll be going to our county commission on June the 22nd to actually buy the first all-electric buses for Broward County.
Not driving themselves, though, hopefully.
Not driving themselves. Not yet. That's something that's on the horizon. We don't know exactly when that's going to occur, but to kind of put people's minds at ease, though, I think that when we talk about driverless or autonomous vehicles, in the very near future, in the foreseeable future, you will always have maybe not a driver, but an attendant there, just in case something were to go wrong. You have a person there just to make sure that the vehicle's performing the way it should, and to handle any occurrences or situations that might come up. But ultimately, and we're talking way in the future, you'll probably see the day when they'll be completely driverless.
Yeah. I want to get back to Detroit because my grandson lives in Detroit. Actually, he lives in Warren, Michigan, and he's a school teacher. He's an elementary school teacher. And so I hear a lot about what goes on over there because of him.
Oh, yeah. I know Warren very well.
Yeah, that's where he didn't grow up there, but his grandparents and his grandmother is 100, and she lives in a facility. She has memory loss, so he watches over her there. But yeah, in fact, the person that's going to be on this today, you won't hear her. She's his wife, and she's a yoga teacher, and she has her yoga studio in Warren.
Oh, how about that?
So this is a little bit of coincidence. I usually don't do that, but I just had to give her a little bit of a boost. But I want to get back to the buses. Now, people like to wrap buses, don't they?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
And when you on the outside, it's as though you can't see the people on the inside. But if you're on the inside, you can see out.
Yes, that's a requirement.
How do you manage that?
Well, that's a requirement that we have in our contracts. We don't want people not to be able to see what's going on outside. And, we just don't want it to be too dark inside the bus.
Right.
But, yeah, it's just the material that they use that, because of your proximity to the window, you could actually see outside.
Is that how it's done?
Through, but you can't see inside.
Yeah, because I've wondered, I thought, we don't want to have everybody just all blacked out there.
No, we absolutely do not. We absolutely do not.
And I know when you were here last time, we talked about having some sort of an event, some sort of a contest. You were just too busy. We couldn't get that together. But I had told you about years ago in Palm Beach County how we did have this.
Yeah, and it's something, I have thought about it periodically, and I would love to pursue it.
So what if I get a date from you on the radio, you're in trouble, but you want me to pursue it with you, right?
Locked. If you get a date, I'm locked in.
Yeah, because people just love that. And sometimes you have to force people to take the bus for some fun reasons, and then they'll be bus riders.
Then they understand how easy it is, and it opens up a world of mobility. And we find particularly that a lot of seniors, like to have that freedom. And what we find at BCT is we do like for them to get out and to take advantage of, because our buses go everywhere in the county. We actually come into Palm Beach County, and we go into Dade County as well. And we have great connections with not only Tri-Rail, but with Palm Beach County and with Miami-Dade Transit. So you can actually negotiate the entire Tri-County area through the bus system. Now, granted, it is not as easy as it is in San Francisco or New York, but we're getting there. And I mentioned earlier, we talked about the potential sales tax on the ballot. That will really be a game changer for Broward because it would allow us to almost double our bus fleet. Again, I mentioned it'll build about approximately 30 miles of light rail. It will have enhanced transportation options for seniors, which is very important to us. And, our seniors ride for half fare. So I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, ride for half fare, but also I want to give a number if they want to know how to get their bus. Now, I have your phone number here, but if they call 954-357-8400 to plan their trip, who answers that?
Well, we have a call center. We've got a call center of agents who are very familiar with all of our bus routes and all of our bus schedules. And it's all computerized. So they can actually tell them where they are and where they want to go. And through our automated system, they'll tell them exactly what time the bus will be there. Now, also, if your seniors or anyone else is computer savvy, we have an app on your phone that'll do the exact same thing. We also have a website that if you want to go to that website, you can actually see the buses moving. And on your app, it'll tell you, if you know your bus stop number, it'll tell you the time of the next 3 buses that are coming.
The next 3 buses,
the next
right?
3 buses.
So you can make sure you can get there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's such a lifesaver. I know that your daughter's going into the healthcare field, and as a gerontologist, I absolutely have always felt, that's why when I lived in Miami Beach early on, buses were there. They were on Lincoln Road. They went Washington Avenue. They were always there. And I told you, I think before too, that I was very young when I got married, and I had children, and we had one car. And I used to take that bus with my children. That's how I did my shopping. That's how I did everything, because otherwise, if I waited for my husband, I'd never get anything done. You know, he had to work. So we have moved. It's funny. We've gone one way, and then we've come back now. But it's a fancier, and it's more convenient.
Certainly is. And you mentioned, yeah, that the culture has changed. We used to be a very public transit-oriented culture. And then as we talked about, the automobile kind of took over as urban sprawl took over. When people started moving out of the cities to the suburbs and the freeway network was built, the people wanted their own cars. But what we're seeing now, people are returning to urban cores. And that brings back a resurgence of public transportation. So yeah, the technology in terms of transportation has changed. When you look at our buses now, many of our buses have Wi-Fi. We have our brand new buses have message boards. We're actually telling them, you know, what's coming up at the next stop. There's some advertising. There's news information that we can actually provide on the bus. Many of the buses have the plugs. If your phone is dying or your laptop is dying, you just plug into the bus. And again, I mentioned that some of our buses have Wi-Fi. We're moving to our entire fleet to have Wi-Fi, hopefully by the end of this year.
Well, you're just a great man to be in charge. You seem to be such an innovator, and you want not only to make your bus system function, but you want it to be on top of the on top of the world. You want people to enjoy it, not just say, I have to take the bus. They should say, I want to take the bus.
Well, I appreciate that, and we're doing all that we can. I mean, we know that we hear from our passengers, and many will say, well, we like your bus service, but we would like more service. We would like you to start early in the morning. We would like later evening service, or we wouldn't have to wait so long between buses. The sales tax initiative will address all that. However, what we're finding out, though, is people, after more service, the thing they want the most is shelter. They want to be able to have a place to sit, out of the sun, out of the rain. And they want real-time information. So we provided the real-time information either through the telephone and the app, and we're building a lot of our terminals, and you will see shortly at a lot of our heavily traveled bus stops, we'll have signs that actually show the next time the buses are coming. So we're doing that now. The issue now for us is just to build more shelters. Right now, we've got about 4,500 bus stops in the system, and we've got about 25% of those that actually have shelters. So we're adding more and more shelters so it's more comfortable for people to sit and wait for the bus.
Right, to have some in case it's raining or the sun. What does a shelter, it's funny, I'm just curious, what would a shelter cost?
It actually depends on the size and type of the shelter. Some of the shelters are smaller because if we have a bus stop where we don't have a lot of ridership, a small shelter would do. And you can probably, when I say shelter, it's not just putting a structure there. You actually have to put a concrete pad that is ADA accessible. You have to have a 5-foot walkway, and you have to have a curb cut to make sure that someone in a wheelchair could actually negotiate their way to the bus stop. But a smaller one is probably someplace in the neighborhood of $35,000. But then we have the more popular stops that are at heavily traveled intersections, then you have a lot of people, particularly during rush hour, that are at one particular stop, and we'll build a much bigger shelter, and they can cost up to $100,000.
But I would think that the places that have more people are the ones you should do first, because then you'll get more people on the bus. Isn't that true?
Right. We try to take care of everybody.
Okay.
But yeah, so we don't want to forget, because every passenger is important. But we build large ones, and we build medium-sized ones, and we build small ones all over the county.
I have been impressed with something that sometimes as I'm driving, I see the bus about to take off, and someone's yelling, wait, and they stop, even if it's not at the exact place. They're pretty nice. That's important because
it is important because, we try to, as long as the stop is safe,
right.
As long as they can stop safely, if they haven't pulled away from the curb,
right.
It's okay to do that. Now we don't what we don't encourage, I'm glad you bring that up, what we don't encourage is for people to actually run after the bus. If they can flag them down and yell, but we don't want them running alongside of the bus.
Right.
Because what happens in many cases, and not just at Broward, but all over the country, if you're running alongside of the bus driver typically is looking to the left because they're merging into traffic and they're pulling away from the curb. And we've had people actually slip under.
Oh, yeah. No, we don't want to do that. No, I just mean if they're about to take off, they can just stop without doing it and give them a chance.
Right. Or if the bus driver is at the corner and they see somebody running across the street, they'll stop and wait for them. We do encourage them to do that.
Well, you have 3 people watching right now. Tracy Smith is watching. Lloyd Hassner is watching. And there's, I can't pronounce her name. It's Ishake Sitaku. I'm sorry, I don't have your name right, but you have people.
I'm impressed that you're doing that without glasses.
All right. That's right, at my age, right? That's true.
That's very impressive.
I have something called, well, I won't tell you about that. It's into the eye thing. Anyway, it's special. I have 5% of the population has it, where you can really, your cataracts have started, but something else kicks in, and so it doesn't do that. But I'm okay.
That's great.
But I want to just tell you that you really are so articulate. It's wonderful, when you come here, and you don't come in like, when we think of people who are in this business, it thinks like they're just different than you. You are such a right-on guy. I mean, what did you do before you got into the bus business? Of course, you got in a long time ago, so you were pretty young.
Well, I've had a few jobs. Again, coming from Detroit, my first job out of college was with in the automobile industry. Believe
of course,
it or not. Everybody in Detroit, I was
right.
with Ford Motor Company.
Right. Okay.
And did a little bit of work in healthcare. Then got into public transportation.
It's just interesting that you would have done that. Little did you know how important it was really going to be. It is, and a lot people drive in their cars and they don't really understand that. But now I go to theaters a lot, the Kravis Center and the Broward, Performing Arts Center, and I know that you have buses that go there because people want to go, and it's nighttime. They're not going to drive at night.
Right.
Now, you were talking about how late do your buses go generally?
And again, it depends on the route, but typically our bus service ends at about 1 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, that's enough. They should be home. and also because the theaters, they get out sometimes 10, maybe even 11. So that gives them a chance to get on the bus. They're safe, and then you let them off. And I've also seen your bus drivers are so helpful. They help them down the stairs. Even if they seem to be okay, they want to make sure that they're all right.
Yeah, all of our buses are equipped with what we call kneelers, which means the bus actually drops down so that people who have difficulty negotiating stairs won't have as far a step to make when they get off the bus onto the curb, or when they're boarding the bus can actually drop down and make it easier to get up on the bus.
We have another person watching, Seth Levy. I mean, this Facebook works very well. I don't know if I told you when you were here last time that I actually I moved to Minneapolis with my husband, and he was a developer of affordable housing and things like that. So I started helping a person as a volunteer, a person that had polio, and she lived in an iron lung. But she could move her head, and she learned to paint with a stick in her mouth and to type. And with the typing of a stick in her mouth, she wrote to the newspaper, the Minneapolis Star, every day, because this is back in 1974, 75. And she said, I have friends that need to have the buses take care of them, because they didn't at that time. And do you know, and then she learned how to frog breathe. It's a little bit, I'm not going to go into that either, but what happened is she could actually, during the day, be able to breathe by pushing the breath out. So I could take her in a wheelchair that was reclining, and she wanted to get on the buses. And before I left, a few years later, because of what she did, the buses did make it possible for people in wheelchairs to board them. I don't think they had the kneelers at that time. They did something different. I don't know if they did. Maybe they did that. But that's how important it is. And if for those of us who are not, challenged this way, can you imagine what it's like for a person to ride your bus and to go somewhere and some of them have, of course, electric wheelchairs.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And they can go and they don't even need any help because of your wonderful bus system.
Well, that's great. I mean, again, we like to be a provider that offers mobility to everyone. And, one service that we do provide for seniors and those who may have some sort of disability is what we call paratransit. And it's a very expensive service, but it is required under the law. And what it is a door-to-door service.
Yes.
For those who qualify for either a reason of physical disability or some sort of cognitive disability, that we will actually send a small vehicle to your house, pick you up, and take you where you need to go and pick you up and bring you back home.
It's fantastic. So I'm going to give everyone the number. Just write it down. Remember, this is Pencil Talk Radio. You have to have a pencil. It's called 954-357-8400. 954-357-8400. And you actually could go to broward.org/BCT. Again, thank you. Every time you come here, Chris, I have to just say again, and your name is Chris Walton, and you are the director of Broward County Transportation. You always do such a great job.
Well, thank you for having me. And anytime you want me to come back, I'll be happy.
I will, but I'm going to hold you down to something else. I'm going to make a date with you to talk about this great event.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.